I don't think that for a very long time we've lived in a time where in the real world, in the natural world, in the world of real economies, of real people, where things have been as fraught. We've got huge hurricanes churning across the Atlantic. You know, we've got the North Koreans threatening to sink Japan. We've got rampant poverty, the biggest divide between rich and poor the world's ever seen. I mean, there are a lot of reasons to be very, very concerned that we should be paying attention to some of the problems coming our way. What we have alongside of all of that is, in the financial world, in the money world, things have never been more fantastic. Every asset price is up. Every single day the share market goes up a little bit more. Every house price, antique, car, work of art, anything you can imagine that's possibly worth anything is getting worth more and more and more and more and more and more. Everything in the fantasy world that we've managed to create, called our monetary system and our economic system, everything could never have been better. There's no more leaders huddling around because there's a financial crisis. Everything's great. The entire, our whole being seems to have been transformed into one where there are no longer any risks. There's no longer any need to be prudent. There's no longer any need to be aware of what's going on around, because the guys in charge have got it all sorted out and everything is just going to be fucking great. You have a look around you in nature, there are laws. There's negative feedback all over the place. Nothing can just pretend that it's existing in a bubble and that there are going to be no consequences. There are always consequences. In nature, in physics, in economics, there are consequences. Instead of having just a couple of people look after themselves and steal everything for themselves and make everything work for themselves at the expense of everyone else, which is by definition a system that can't work. It's going to collapse. Sooner or later, heads are coming off if you have a system like that. But if you have the system where everyone operates in their own self-interest, but their self-interest coincides with the general interest, you've got a very smart system. Economic self-interest is supposed to make all these individual consumers all behave in a way which suits them. But there's supposed to be a pricing mechanism to influence the way people do things, such that the net result of all of this activity is pointing the economy in the right direction, because the incentives are in the right place. People react because there are stimuli that make them realize that there's something wrong, and they change the way they behave. I mean, it's how little kids learn only ever to put their hand on the hot plate once. There are supposed to be consequences for actions. Morph that into the world we live in today. Economically, there are no longer any consequences for making bad decisions. America goes into disastrous wars, starts terrorism all over the place, causes their entire economy virtually to collapse because of all the bad decisions they've been making. All of the huge amount of debt that's been created, chasing all these unproductive investments, doing the wrong thing. What do they do as a result of the entire thing almost collapsing? No one learns any lessons. What they do is the Federal Reserve steps in and out of thin air prints all this money so that all those pricks who are doing all the wrong things can carry on doing that. Some distant generation is going to have to deal with the consequences of the fact that we have removed any price signaling or any sort of price discovery or any sort of feedback from our system, from our political system and from our economic system. So now we have a system where a few people in positions of incredible power, the people who print the money, the politicians who have the money, who make the laws to suit the people who print the money, these people are our version of the Politburo. These people are planning and directing our economy. These guys in charge think they've rescued us from something. I don't know what they think they've rescued us from. What they've done is they've completely and utterly lobotomized the capitalist system, right? This has gone from infecting the idiots, the ignorant, all the way up through now to the political class, all the way up through now to the central bankers, and even the bloody Supreme Court. Nobody wants to upset the apple cart, because what we've done is we've created a system that is so goddamn fragile that it can't handle any external shock. If interest rates go up by 0.25% in Australia, it's like Armageddon's going to arrive. Armageddon. Because we can't allow any asset price to go down by more than 0.1%. Otherwise, all the collateral is going to disappear, because the whole thing's like an upside-down pyramid on a pinprick.
Because we're sitting next to China, aren't China going to feed this bubble for the next 30 or 50 years?
Yeah, okay, so let's say China are going to feed this bubble for the next 30 or 50 years. How are they going to feed this bubble? So where's the Chinese money coming from? Who knows? I mean, the guys up top apparently know. Apparently it's all governed by some kind of rules. So apparently the Chinese can't just print money out of thin air and come and buy Australia with it. I'm not so sure. I think they probably can. There are a whole lot of guys up the top there who are buying a whole lot of stuff in China, and the guys up the top there in China are buying a whole lot of stuff over here, and all the bigwigs are all doing this kind of stuff. And the consequences for everyone underneath is that what ends up happening is Australia starts turning into no one who earns a wage can live here anymore. That's what it's going to... If China fuels our bubble forever, that's where it's going to end up. Because don't forget, unless wages are going to keep up with all these assets, at some point, anyone who earns a wage is wasting their time. You think about that for a little while. Anyone earning a wage is wasting their time. If you want to actually have stuff in this world, you need to go and buy some stuff. So you've struck this kind of devil's bargain. In order for you to keep going, you've got to just keep this machine, just keep on turning. You've got to be building more stuff. You've got to be importing more people. And this is everywhere. Everyone's got to be doing this, even if you don't need it anymore. Even if, like in China, you've got 65 cities that are empty. Oh, you've got to build number 66. And then you've got to build number 67. And then number 6, because as soon as you stop building one of these things, it's like the machinery stops. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh my God, now what? We have developed an economic system which simply cannot slow down. Even though nature demands that it slow down. In the end, nature's going to win. And the thing about it is that our economic system and our political system have managed to morph into a thing which simply cannot tolerate bad news. The political system and the economic system are no longer an organic thing that's got the inputs of all the consumers all around the world. It is a thing which is now driving all of us. It is the thing that we need to keep alive. It's not that we all need to stay alive, that our planet needs to stay alive, and we've actually developed an economy, an economic system, and a political system which actually is very clever because it's going to keep us alive and keep our planet alive. We've gone the other way around. We've got a planet and a population that is now subservient to this thing called the economic system and the political system. Because it's the thing now that needs to be kept bloody well alive. It's completely the wrong way around. And I see around all the time, I am looking to see some sort of feedback where there is an event that actually makes people reset and think, Jesus, we've done something wrong. I almost think it's the most ridiculous thing. Imagine if nuclear war were to break out between America and North Korea, right? Now, 50 years ago, that would have been a calamity, that breaking out. You can almost imagine that if that breaks out, there'd be a whole lot of these oligarchs and kind of people who run the place saying, what a wonderful opportunity. 2 nations have been leveled. What a wonderful opportunity. Think of the growth prospects ahead. We can all go in there and start building again in there. The whole concept of economic growth has become so ingrained that actually, even if growth is cancerous, it's good. Because it's growth. Who cares what kind of growth it is? If half the population gets sick and we have to double the number of hospitals and double the number of ambulances out there, it's bloody growth. The numbers will say that's bloody brilliant. Look at that. What an economic quarter we've had. Best on record. Let's go out there and kill more people. You see, because the economic system doesn't have the other side of the ledger. The other side of the ledger is the consequences, the opportunity cost, the cost of doing things. We've managed, the cost has gone off balance sheet, completely off balance sheet. And it's in the form of, financially, it's in the form of derivatives. So you see, what you can do is, you can do something over here which is very, very, very negative and very, very, very destructive. But you can have a little insurance bet on the side, that if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, you've got a little bet over there that's going to pay off. You see? So you can actually profit from something entirely negative, which is what happened with the Big Short and with the GFC and so on. We have allowed a system where a lot of people are allowed to become hugely, fantastically wealthy, doing nothing other than destroying. You know, and it's and like Ernest Hemingway said when he was asked, you know, how does one go bankrupt? His answer was, very slowly at first and then all of a sudden. And I think we are going to go towards big problems very slowly at first and then all of a sudden, because we are willfully ignoring what we know is not right. And no one ever got away with that in history so far, and I don't think we're going to be any different. And the advice I would give to my kids and to the next generation is just go in there with your eyes open and don't listen to all of that bullshit as if it were fact.